Yes, it does on mine.
Okay, perfect.
Cool. Okay. So we're just supposed to go through and talk about this chapter and what we learned from the chapter in relation to the video, correct?
Yeah, that's what I got from the assignment. What, like all the notes we took from what we noticed.
No.
Okay.
About
Okay. Does anyone have anything specifically they want to start with? Oh, you froze. Are you there? Are you there? You guys froze. Andrew and Brittany.
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know. I think their internet kind of...
Are they frozen for you too?
Yeah, they are.
Okay. We'll give them a second.
Okay. Do we decide who's going to be like the little summarizer?
Oh, no, we haven't. Do you have a desire to do that?
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
They just got kicked out for some reason, so they're getting... Oh, are you back?
Yes, yeah.
I don't know what
Sorry.
happened. But we are good.
Yeah, we can start now.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Tanya's going to be our little scribe, so...
Oh, perfect.
Cool.
And thank you for letting me join your group.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks for joining.
I think
I kind of felt bad because, like, we were having such a hard time figuring out when we were going to meet and stuff, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the discussion board was weird because she said pick your group, but then it was just us in the discussion board. So I was like, I guess this is our group.
Yeah.
It was super confusing about that, yeah. So, okay, well, let's get started. So, one of the things that I really loved when he very first brought the family in was that he took the time to like get to know everybody and like find out their likes and stuff like that, so that he kind of got a feel for who they were and stuff. Because I think that's important when you are helping families through crises. So.
Yeah. I agree.
Good. Let's see here. So it says, take turns talking about the points you identified, both the overt and references and more subtle ones. Okay. Tanya, what was something that you was interesting to you that you identified to some of the principles? So it was in chapter 6 that they gave us.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't see those. It says key processes and family resilience in chapter 6. Is there anything that stood out to you there that kind of connected?
I think one thing that stood out to me was that all the family had they all had different opinions about what was going on. They all kind of felt differently about what the brother was doing, and it was important for them to all verbally say what they were feeling, but then each family member kind of brought into perspective what they were feeling. Like the daughter was really taking it hard and thought that it was really, really bad and that things were really bad right off the bat, but the dad kind of brought it back into perspective and was like, maybe it wasn't as bad as they were thinking, but it could have been better. So I think that was important that all the family took turns to speak openly about what they were feeling so that they could get it all on the table so there was no confusion left after that therapy session.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of going along with some of the things that I saw in the reading, it talked about an appraisal of the crisis / distress and recovery, and I think that's kind of what they were doing there. Is they're appraising the crisis and I liked how he did it for each person because even though it's the same situation, like you said, each person had a different view on it and thought, and I thought it was interesting how like the mom thought that the the son didn't like her, and the son thought that they didn't like him, and it's like that's not really what was happening. And so as they appraised the situation, they were able to kind of be like, oh, this is why you act that way because you feel this way. So I think that kind of helped us for each person to speak.
One of the things that I pointed out was similar. I put clarity. These are just kind of things that came to mind. Clarity, clear, consistent messages, words and actions, clarification of ambiguous situations, truth-seeking and truth-speaking. So I guess similar, they all had different opinions, so they all had different opinions, so it was kind of ambiguous. They didn't really have they didn't really have a correct understanding of what really was going on. And so I really liked how the counselor was trying to get to a basis of what the problem was, what the source was. They didn't really know what the source was. They just kind of pointed fingers and said, this is the problem, which they were able to come back and kind of get a better foundation of what was wrong, and it was able to clear up things, I thought. And so that was what I thought, what I kind of came away with from their talking that I thought was important, making sure that they understood each other's points of view. So similar to what you guys have talked about.
There was something else in the reading that kind of went along with that on, I don't know what page it is. It says 136 at the top. It says, often family members and professionals become so focused on symptoms that they may not connect them to other crisis situations and stresses on the system. And when I read that, it kind of made me think about not only what you just said, Andrew, but like how they were talking about them moving, but then all of a sudden it also came out that Dad's never home either. And like there were all these different symptoms going on and a few different stressors on the family as well. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
we realized that it wasn't just because they moved, or it wasn't just because, I mean, there were multiple things going on that wasn't helping the patient at all. And hopefully that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and I think, too, it's almost like a combination of, like, a lot that was going on in the family's life at that time that almost caused them to think it was one thing, but it was really almost a combination of things.
Yeah.
Did anyone else have any other comments they wanted to point out, some things that they thought that kind of came to their minds as far as the references in the reading? Okay, so the next thing would be note. What?
Well, we have a whole list of things.
Okay.
I don't know. I thought too. It was talking about like decreasing the risk factors, and I don't know if this kind of goes along with exactly what I was saying in the book, but the parents were talking about how their son, they thought maybe he was doing drugs or doing bad things, which in reality he wasn't, but they thought that. So I think the therapist is kind of decreasing the risk factors by letting them know, like, what is really going on. And even though I'm sure it can mean different, decreasing the risk factors, but I kind of almost, I don't know, came away with thinking he's trying to help them realize the situation and realize that the risks that are happening aren't as bad as they're making it sound. I don't know. That might not be really what it means, but.
No, I think that's good because, like, the daughter, they said that the daughter was their only way of knowing what was going on with their son. So while her perspective on the outside is she sees him with the kids at school who she knows associate themselves with bad things, so she automatically assumes that her brother is taking part of those or at least being around them. And so she's probably going back to her parents and not bigger, but expressing her concern in a way that may seem like it's a way worse situation than it is. So I think by the therapist really getting it out on the table and letting the brother, like, let them know, like, hey, I'm not doing those things, but then letting him know that that's what his sister told them, it kind of helps the family understand more of the situation. Like you were saying, the risk factor is not as bad as it may seem, but it's still there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Yeah. Um, well, and I think it kind of almost goes along too. I saw reducing vulnerability and how the parents, this is like their oldest son, and so they almost didn't know how he should be acting. So it was, I don't know, helping them realize like teenagers go through kind of a phase. Maybe it might not be the exact same, but that, I don't know, reducing that vulnerability of this might be a little bit normal, even though it might not feel normal, and how to realize what is normal and what's not. I don't know.
Yeah, there was something in the reading that kind of reminded me of that. It talked about developing effective communication and problem-solving strategies. And I was thinking that, like, the therapist had to make it work for everybody because everyone has different ways of communicating. And obviously, Jimmy didn't necessarily want to say everything, but at the same time, he wanted everyone to believe the things that he did say. And I kind of felt like the parents need to put that little bit of trust in him, you know, that he isn't out there doing things, and then maybe it would help him open up a little bit more. But by figuring out how he communicates and how, I think her name's Mallory, is that the daughter? How she communicates and just trying to solve problems with the different ways of communication there, and making it work for everybody and making everybody feel comfortable with what they're willing to do and able to do. So
yeah. And I think going along with that communication, it talked about in the reading reduce negative chain reaction. And I found it interesting as he talked to the sister would be like worried about her brother. So then she would go talk to the parents who would be upset, who then would go talk to their brother and make him upset. And so it was like this negative chain reaction, and he talked about how do you reduce that, and it almost was and then he talked about alternating coping strategies. Coping strategies, and because the brother, he would just leave the house, and then everyone's like, well, okay, that didn't help at all. So instead of finding ways to, instead of like just leaving the house or getting angry, how can they cope with that chain reaction of the sister worrying, the parents getting angry, and the brother
so. Go to bed. Yeah.
Everybody needs to go to bed.
One of the things that I really found interesting is, I guess I haven't really kind of put it together here, but when we've been doing some of our case studies, we always have these questions in our case studies where it says, they ask us what relationships are at risk, and I guess for me, generally for all these case studies, I always say, well, you know, obviously the parents are at risk, and then the parents' relationship with their children's relationship is at risk. So, generally those are always important relationships. But I think for this specific example in their situation, you could see that the counselor was focusing on certain relationships. When he had the family sit next to each other, he altered them and told them to sit by each other, and then he talked to the parents and said, I want you guys to set a goal to go on a date and to talk about things. Then he told the dad and the father to go and hang out, find something that you guys, what did I say? Okay. Anyway, the dad.
Yeah.
Anyways, they decided to go out, to set a goal to go out together and to do something to create a greater relationship between them. And they can discuss, the father could explain, this is the kind of point where you're at in your life and you need to figure out how to, with your career or making up a decision of what you want to do in your life. And then he went over to the children and had the son and, the brother and sister set the time to go and hang out. And so I thought it was interesting that you see the specific relationships that he focused on to build those relationships. Which ones were hurting and which ones he focused on to build those better than that situation. So I thought that was interesting. Through that, I guess, one of my observations I saw.
Well, one thing that I really loved about that is that he he pointed out how like everyone kind of felt differently about the situation, but then he pointed out how similar they were as well. You know, how similar the mom and Mallory were, and how similar Jimmy and his dad actually were, to show that, you know, you're really not as different as you think you are, and there are similarities, and, you know, the dad really does understand more than he realizes how Jimmy feels about things. And I think that that strengthens the relationship right there, to know that, you know, maybe my dad does understand, or maybe my mom really does understand. And I really thought that was interesting. And then I really loved how when he was coming up with like the solutions on how that they could try to fix things, he led the questions to make it sound like it was their idea. Like, he didn't come out and say, you guys need to go on a date every week so that you can talk. He was like, well, where, you know, when do you find the best places for you to talk? You know, when we're together, maybe on dates. Oh, do you like to talk over dinner? Maybe you should ask her out. You know, like, I thought it was really funny because people are more apt to do it if it's their own idea rather than someone telling them how to do it or what to do. And so I really thought that was kind of interesting. So
I agree. I thought so too. As you know, they were, and that kind of I think went along with in the book about rebuilding and reorganizing and kind of almost starting over for the family a little bit. But he didn't want to do it in a way of, well, this is what you need to do. And so I thought it was a good strategy too, to kind of almost let the family almost think that it was their idea, but guiding them to do it.
Yeah, he mentioned in there too. He goes, what did he say? He said, "I believe that you guys are the experts, and at your family, you know your family a lot better than I do." And I don't know what else he said after that, but you know, he's just kind of there as a guide to. They really know each other. He's just trying to kind of help them understand the process of how to work with it. And that was another thing that I pointed out and that I talked about, was that for all families, you know, we all want to be happy. We all don't want to, you know, no one wants to argue. No one wants to get mad at each other. And so generally we all have the same goals. And I think it's just interesting that we just need to learn how to be calm and patient with each other and learn how to communicate and talk between each other. As your family grows, it's going to be different. You need to learn how to talk and communicate as parents, and then from parents to the children, and then in siblings, they need to learn how to communicate to each other and not jump to conclusions. You know, not become irrational or, you know, those kinds of things. They just need to learn how to see a perspective, understand the perspective, and take it with a grain of salt, and don't get upset about it. Because then once we start doing that, then we don't really see the point of view, and then it all escalates. So I think we all have the same goals. We just need to figure out how to be patient enough to communicate and to get past those kinds of things. So that was another thing that was pointed out to me. Are you guys still there?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just writing down a bunch of stuff.
Oh. That's okay. I just didn't know if you got kicked out or anything.
One of the things that I found interesting was in the reading it says that we need to help families to live with uncertainty. And in the video at one point, the therapist asked Jimmy, like, if he was scared about not knowing what the future was going to hold. And I think that's part of building resilience in your family and coping mechanisms, is knowing that, you know, the future is uncertain and we don't know what it's going to be like, but, you know, it can still be okay. And maybe Jimmy's acting out of all of this, you know, because he's scared of what the future is, and parents need to be a little more understanding of that and validate his fears a little bit, because it can be scary, especially at that age when it's such a big transition and stuff. And so, I don't know, I think that's a big part of building resilience in your family.
No, yeah, thanks for sharing that, because that's why I thought it was so interesting that he focused on the relationships, and he said to the son and to the father, he said, I want you guys to go and spend time together. And then he said to the father, he said, talk about the stage of life that he's at. Talk about what your experience was of, you know, when you were coming to experience those kinds of things. as a father figure, or when you were when you were his age, what were your thoughts? When you prepared, what would you do to prepare yourself better? And that way, it comes on the father like, oh, okay, I see your perspective. I understand how you kind of went through that, and that's the same thing that I'm going through. So you can see that they bond because they have things in common. They're just at different stages of life, and so I agree with that. I like how you pointed that out.
I think one of the big things that you mentioned is like validating his fear. I think that's really important, not only for building resilience, but kind of going back to, what was it? Building the relationships that could be at risk if his parents are going to take him seriously and take his fears, like if they're just like, oh, well, I dealt with this when I was young, so he should just be able to move past this stage in life. They're not going to take everything that he's going through for the first time and remember that this is a new part of life for him. I think that can really have a damaging effect on their relationship, because I know that's where a lot of teenagers move away from their parents, is their parents just think they should do it their way, and they've already been through life at that stage. So I think that point that you guys brought up about really making sure that they're talking about that is really important for a lot of teenagers, because that's where a lot of parents aren't, I feel like they're misunderstanding their teenagers, is just because they think their teen should do it one way, when really maybe they just aren't built to do it the same way as their parents, and the parents need to build that new path with them so that they can stay on the right path while making it their own, so that they feel like they're validated.
Yeah, I agree.
So I guess the next question would be to me, or that's on here. It says, so some of the observations that we've talked about, some of the things that we've noticed, was anyone surprised by the findings that they saw? Was anyone surprised about some of the things that I guess that what they observed from the counseling? We just talked about our observations. So what were what was anything surprising to you guys? What you found, or not?
No.
Let's see here. Well, what is the next thing?
I don't know. I think we kind of talked a lot about them, but I just, I also found in the reading gaining confidence and connection through collaborative efforts, and we kind of talked about that, how they were able to set goals and say, oh, yeah, I'll go on a date with you, or yeah, I'll spend time with my brother or sister and whatnot, and like through that they were able to find confidence and connect with each other through those efforts. And then we talked about, and then I also found, rebounding from setbacks. I know the family kind of talked about how, or especially the sister and brother, how their relationship, they kept talking about how they missed each other, and it almost is, those were just kind of setbacks in the family, but how they could rebound from those, and they didn't have to be, just because of the situation with Jimmy, didn't have to be negative. They could still overcome and keep going. And I think just...
Tanya, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm just writing down stuff.
No, yeah, that's good. I was just going to say, Corinne just got her computer overheated, so...
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she'll be back in a minute because she got kicked out or something.
Okay.
So I just wanted, what we could wait for her to come back. Where are you from?
I'm from Mountain Home, Idaho.
Mountain Home.
Yeah, it's right out. It's like an hour away from Boise.
Okay.
Closer. like, is it closer to to Oregon or closer to Rexburg?
It's closer to Rexburg, so.
Okay. So you would, like, if we were to go to Boise, you go through Mountain Home, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't go through it. You'd pass it right on the freeway. We're really small.
Okay.
That's not the same as Mountain View, is it? Mountain Home. Different. Okay.
Yeah. Are you guys in Rexburg?
We're from Rexburg, but we live in Moses Lake, Washington.
Oh, okay.
So I guess what about, are you married? Are you just going to school online? What's your I guess your
I'm not married. I go to school online just because I got comfortable here and I have a full-time job that I like. So I don't want to go back to school, but I did want to get my I did want to finish my bachelor's. I have my associates, but I want to go ahead and finish my bachelor's. I'm actually going for healthcare administration, but because my family was going through so much, and I actually just went through family stress because there's so much of it in my life right now. I actually took this course for myself, which is really good.
Awesome.
I actually learned so much from this class.
Have you been, like, has it helped you quite a bit?
Yeah, I was so surprised. Like, the mood logs, I have so many extras printed out, and when I'm, like, panicking and having anxiety, and then I'll look at it, and just learning to remember the eternal perspective has been such a blessing. Like, sometimes you forget when you're feeling so overwhelmed, you're just like, there's too much, I give up, but, I mean, this class has put a lot into perspective, which is really nice.
Yeah,
awesome.
That is so awesome.
That's good. So we're just trying to prop up our computer here. Slowing down.
Okay.
So where do you work?
Did Corinne say she was? I actually work as a government travel agent.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's after hours, so like when all the government travel agencies close, like if people are stuck in airports or their flights get canceled, they call us and we switch over their flights to something new.
Is it home-based, or do you have, like, an office that you go to?
No, I do go to an office, but I work the night shift, so that's the only thing we don't open till 2 because that's when people start closing.
Wow.
Did you go to school in Rexburg? Is that where you got your associates first before you moved to Mountain Home?
I actually, my dad was stationed here through the Air Force, and so I've lived here for 13 years. I went to Rexburg for 1 semester before I got married and moved to Italy, and then moved back here. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. What do you guys do in Washington?
We are just kind of on the down low, I guess. My wife works at a children's clothing resale store. I'm an assistant coach at a community college for a girls basketball team.
Oh, nice.
Just kind of, I'm looking for some more job. I do some maintenance out at the community college too, but just kind of looking for more hours and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, what are you guys going to school for? Are you guys both going for the same thing?
Yeah, both marriage and family.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, we were going to school at BYU, Idaho, and he was going into psychology and I was going into elementary ed, but we wanted to be up here. Andrew enjoys coaching. So the closest online degree to both of those was marriage and family, so we both switched to the same one.
Yeah.
So.
Do you guys like taking the same classes? Like you guys can just always do your homework together?
Yeah, it's nice because we can, remind each other like what's due and help each other. But it's kind of weird telling people we're like the same major.
Yeah.
But it works out.
I had a friend.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna change topic. Go ahead.
I was going to say they added a couple of new majors. That's why I chose healthcare administration, because they just added it, but all their classes are so spread out to when they're getting added. It's like,
Oh, really?
yeah, it's going to take forever to get it done. So I'm like, they have options, but it's like either you pick this or you go to the totally different side and pick healthcare. So it's like,
Wow. Yeah.
So I just had a friend that just graduated in healthcare administration, and he just got a job in California. So
oh really?
he got a job in California, and to me it sounds like a lot. He's already getting paid. He's $60,000 a year for the job that he got hired for, and
Wow.
but I mean it's California, so he's also paying like $1,700 in rent for just for a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, that's insane.
So it's pricey. He told me it's 2-bedroom apartment, and they're paying their own water, their gas, and all sorts of utilities. They're obviously internet, but things that you usually don't have to pay for with apartments, like your water and gas and power, those kinds of things, garbage.
Yeah.
Like, that's some more things that they had to pay for. So that was kind of ridiculous that they had to pay for that.
Yeah, I don't know if I would like that.
Yeah, so he's just in a 6 months training right now, 4 to 6 months training. So he'll be shipped off somewhere else to get a real job, more full time after his training.
He liked healthcare administration.
After studying it for these 2 semesters, I don't know if I'm really like, I'm actually starting a dental assisting program in the fall, and I just haven't really got into the administration side of things, so I'm happy to switch, but it will be a lot different from the things I'm learning now.
Yeah. Very true. Did she say she's hopping back on, or?
She just said my computer. Oh, be back in a second.
Okay. So hopefully she'll pop up soon.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe she doesn't know how to get back on. Did she chat you at all, maybe? I don't know if she would. Let's see.
I do not think so. Do we have I think there were only like 2 more questions we hadn't answered.
Yeah.
Is that right, for the assignment?
Yeah, maybe let's just keep going. We'll see if she comes, because we gotta meet with her. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. I guess as a group, I kind of skipped this question. I answered it wrong. Anyways. So the question was, note the trends of your findings as a group. Did everyone identify the same points, or were there points that not everyone caught between what we kind of observed?
I think for the most part, we all kind of picked out the same things that really stood out to us.
I agree.
A lot of our ideas really just connected with each other, which was pretty interesting, because from what we were learning, there she is. So, like, there's a couple things different ways it could go, but for the most part, we kind of just our ideas just flowed together.
Yeah, I agree. I think so.
Tanya, or not Tanya, Corinne, are you there? There you are.
Sorry, my computer overheats so easy.
Hey,
No,
you're okay.
You're fine. We were just getting to know each other a little more while you came back. We just barely asked this question when you logged on. It was the question. It says, note the trends of your findings as a group. Did everyone identify the same points, or were there points that not everyone caught? And I guess we kind of just barely talked about that. Did you have any comments that you thought we identified similar points or different points
You guys,
from the counseling session?
like, did I have similar thoughts than you guys? Or is that what that means?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought we kind of were all on the same wavelength, like, for the most part. I mean...
Yeah. That's what Tanya, Tanya talked about that a little earlier, and I agree. I think we all had similar things, even though they weren't the exact same. But yeah, we got the same ideas.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was any different ones.
Let's see. So the final question is, discuss and record how a treatment professional or paraprofessional might prepare to capitalize on such opportunities to introduce or reinforce the types of resiliency. Am I right? Resiliency factors. Resiliency factors from Walsh's article. Okay. Got it. Almost. Yeah. We kind of just did it all together.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we were answering them, we kind of brought up some of those.
I guess, okay, yeah, I think we all kind of answered most of these questions just by referring to what our observations were about the meeting. I guess my next question is, was this a live counseling session? We couldn't really figure out if it was like a mock one or if it was a real session going on. Was it a real family or?
I think it said that it was a real thing and it wasn't planned out the way it was going to go, if I remember reading it correctly.
I remember reading about that too. I just didn't remember if it was a real counseling session not planned out, or if it was a planned out one that wasn't a family kind of a mock, but they kind of just got.
See, it says that this simulated session was neither scripted nor planned around the principles and practices outlined by Walsh. So.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's good. That's interesting. I thought the reason I find it interesting is because they had, I don't know, just being able to kind of see people go through read through, I guess, go through a kind of counseling session. When my mom was remarried, my stepdad and my mom went to a counseling session one time. What's that? Yeah, so they went to a counseling session to try and talk things through. I don't think it was our family that went into it. I think it was just them, just a strict more of, I guess, a marriage one. But I don't really remember much about it. But I just kind of thought it was interesting what it was like inside. What they talk about. What are some things a counselor would kind of talk about and get to know them and stuff like that. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, similar to experiences I guess I've had, except for my stepfather. I think if I remember right, I think he got mad, he got upset, and he yelled, and then he walked out of the meeting. So,
he wasn't cooperative.
Yeah, he wasn't cooperative. He just got upset and then walked out. So.
That's one thing that I found interesting is that they all sat there and calmly talked to one another. Like, I don't know, maybe that's just because when I was in counseling with my ex-husband, actually a lot of the time he was not receptive to the counseling, so he would just walk out every single time we tried to go to counseling. So I thought that was, I guess, one of the surprising things to me is that they all were able to sit there. I guess that goes to show how much love and how much they really care for each other. They want to sit there and they want to work it out and they want to figure out what the problem is instead of just getting so upset that they walk out and decide that it's not important enough to figure out. So that was interesting to me.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I didn't even think about, people not being, and they did. They all were very cooperative and they all shared their thoughts. So that was interesting.
Yeah, I like how you pointed that out too. It shows kind of commitment. You could see that they cared about each other and wanted to work things out between each other. So I like how you pointed that out too. Were there any other observations that you guys noticed during the counseling session?
I saw Mallory roll her eyes a couple of times.
And I said that too, and I pointed it out to Andrew. I'm like, I would rewind it and say, look it, watch her face.
That was kind of funny. So typical, but at the same time, good
Yes.
to see, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, because I really think that going to counseling used to be such like a taboo thing. Like you were looked at as crazy if you didn't go. And like, I don't know, me and my husband went to counseling for like 2 years actually. And after I got done with it all, I was like, why isn't everybody doing this? Like, everyone should be going to counseling because it's awesome. But because it just makes you feel so good and so validated, and to have someone there. And and I think the whole purpose of counseling is really to teach resiliency and coping, because I mean they help you work through the problems at the time, but they're also helping you help teach you how to deal with future problems, and how to learn about like whose profile of trouble, like how to get through it and then come out better in the end, not make it worse and stuff like that. And so, or the truncated, I can't remember what it's called. But I think that's like the whole purpose of counseling, and I thought that in this little session, that's what the counselor did. He talked about ways to make things better in the future, and how maybe they could reduce the amount of problems that they had just by communicating more clearly and validating each other's feelings and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. And yeah, you could that's cool that you were able to like see, connect personally that way. And I think that the therapist, I thought he did a good job at helping them not just solve their problem right then, but say, okay, if this does reoccur, then this is what you could do, or I don't know. Yeah, I agree.
I think I like what you talked about too. I think we are, every family has its trials and is imperfect in some ways, and we need to learn how to recognize those imperfections and just seek to work on them and to improve upon them. It doesn't matter what type of relationships we have. I think everyone struggles in some ways, and I think counseling would just only benefit you even more to help you understand what you struggle with and how you can improve upon. So I really like that point too. There was something else that I was just going to say and I forgot.
I'm sure it will come to you when we push stop.
I know. It's like, it was something I was going to say. Oh, that's how I remember. Okay. So I really liked what how the therapist was. He was engaging. He sat on the edge of his chair and he was engaging them in a conversation. And you're trying to have a conversation not with just one person or two people, but he's trying to make sure that he's keeping everyone involved. He's not just focusing his attention on the wife or just the son, but he's talking to all four of them at the same time and saying, "Is this how you feel? Is that right? Is that right? How your mom feels?" Things like that. And so he was engaging everyone to have a conversation, and I think that would kind of be hard because, especially with the teenagers, they just sit back and relax and they don't really roll their eyes and stuff. And they don't really, care too much about what's going on. But because he was engaging and asking questions and wanting to help all of them out and having them have the conversations, I thought that was really good. And I think would be a really hard skill to figure out how to do and be able to keep everyone engaged in the conversation. So I like that point, how he was able to do that kind of stuff.
I noticed that as well. I think that's a great point to bring up. I think as whether we go into counseling with this degree or whatever we're doing with it, we need to remember who our audience is. Not our audience, our clients or whatever you call them. And make sure you talk appropriately to them, because that makes a huge difference in being able to connect with them in order to help them. So.
Yeah, I agree. That's important to report.
Are there any other, I guess, last observations, last comments that we could say? We've got a meeting here. We got another meeting in just about 5-7 minutes. So I didn't know if you guys had any other comments or questions. I guess you could, Tanya, you could just tell us if you have any questions about what the things that you've written down. What more things you want to on, or
no, I was just gonna type up like the whole like summary thing. I'll email it to you guys in the morning before I turn it in, just to make sure everyone's okay with it. But I don't think I have any questions.
Cool.
And then, are we supposed to submit this recording somewhere?
Yeah. Yeah, we do need the link for it. So.
Okay.
Do we submit it with the summary?
My phone is coming out the garbage.
Or is it something completely different? Because that's what I was confused on.
What I saw was with the summary, so I can email you the link to it.
Okay, perfect.
Once it's in the broadcast, I'll email it to you.
Okay, that works.
What's your email, real quick, so she can I guess we have your email.
Yeah.
Well, just unless you want it to be, do you want us to email it at your Gmail one, or would you rather?
It doesn't matter either way. I check both of my emails daily, so.
Okay. Well.
So we'll send it to your Gmail one. We'll send you the link to your Gmail account, and you can submit that in with the summary. And I believe we just submit that one for our group. Just put down our name, the group members, that we're all in the group members.
Okay. That works.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Alrighty, thanks guys, appreciate it.
Thanks for waiting for me while my computer was being really done.
No problem.
I go through a laptop like every 3 or 4 semesters because like I burn it out so much because I'm so bad. So yeah, I'm about near the end on this one. So.
Alright.
Okay, well have a good night and good luck on your next meeting.
Alright.
Thanks, Tanya, for doing that.
Thanks, Tanya.
Oh, no problem.